Hi, Johannes. I'm so happy to meet you. You're working on such an exciting game, and I think this is such a interesting game in those specific times. Would you mind introducing yourself and your project a little bit?
Hi. Yeah, thanks. I'm Johannes. Thanks for having me. I make a game called Festival Tycoon. Festival Tycoon is a music festival management game with extra RTS gameplay elements. And it's in development since 2019-ish. And it was a hobby project for 2 years before that, I guess. Yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, you mentioned it started as a hobby project. Can you tell us a little bit more about the history? Like, first of all, like maybe your personal history. How did you get into game development, and also how did you come up with this idea for that game?
Um, well, I got into game development, I think, in 2013 or so. I was at HTL at this time, and it was HTL Bautechnik, nothing to do with computers. And I wanted to make a game. And then I got a group of friends, and we made a game. And it was a game about selling, producing, and selling drugs. And apparently, Google wasn't too happy with us having this game on Google Play. So we made another game, which is still available in Google Play. And then, yeah, so this is basically how my journey started. I or the second part of my journey, I made games in elementary school. There was a course where we had a lecture where we could make a game with Game Maker 7, I think. And yeah, this was my first game I ever made, I think. But then I had a long break for a couple of years, and then I got back into it. And yeah, I always had those small projects, side projects next to my school, which I developed a little bit. And then I started studying informatics in Vienna at TU Vienna. And this is where the more professional time of my development career started, I'd say. I made this was a very small educational game, but it's available in the ACM library. You can read about it, and there is a paper, and it was published, and so on and so forth. So it was successful for a university project, I'd say. And yeah, afterwards, after this project was done, I felt like I need something else to do, and then I started with some ideas I had, and I started with Festival Tycoon. Um, and yeah, it was just a hobby project at this time. But then I won the Subotron live pitch last year. And this was more or less the starting point where I said, all right, this is good enough to make it properly. And then I made it properly and still am.
Yeah, congrats again for winning. So you already mentioned
Thanks.
Festival Tycoon. We would love to hear more about your game. Like, what is the vision? Maybe you also want to share a little bit the tools you're using. What are the mechanics? Like, I'm super curious. I mean, of course, I've already seen a lot of trailers and screenshot, but maybe you can explain it a little bit.
So Festival Tycoon is yeah, as I said before, a music festival management game where you build, plan, and manage a festival. Those are the three things you do basically. And what's unique to the game is that it's split in a build part and a live part. And in the build part, you build everything and you plan everything. So you set down your, you know, stages and entrances, and you make sure that crowd control works and everything, which is mandatory to a festival. Toilets, for example, or food courts. And you also book bands and you find sponsors, you make deals and everything which happens in this planning phase in this entire year before a festival starts. And once you're ready, you can start the festival, and then the visitors arrive. And this is where everything shifts towards this real-time strategy game, and you have to manage your visitors basically and make them happy. That's the entire goal. And there are certain things you can do there. For example, if someone gets hurt in a mosh pit, you need to assist with some medical assistance and things like that. Um, I use Unity for the game, and it was a steep learning curve. This is not my first project I ever did in Unity, but it is my first real project I ever did in Unity. and some things you can still see are a little bit wonky here and there, I'd say. And I'm remaking the UI a third time right now. But yeah, it's a learning progress for me, but it's a really enjoyable progress. So yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. And I mean, do you already want to share with us a little bit what are your future plans? I mean, you're rather new to the Austrian game dev scene, but what are your future plans here? And maybe also future developments for games, for instance. Whatever you want to share with us.
Yeah, I'm still kind of surprised at how fast I became person in the Austrian game development scene, I'd say. um, and I'm quite happy that this is such a nice community to be in because it's very welcoming. Next games, I mean, I think I can say that I have an idea for a next game, but I won't say what it is. Let's see. It really depends. If Festival Tycoon depends on the success of Festival Tycoon, I say. If it's super successful, the most likely version will be that this game will get some DLCs and maybe, don't know, this is very future talk and very not certain at all, but probably there will be some ports to other platforms, DLC roadmaps, and so on and so forth. Other scenario is that the game is successful, but it's not worth it to really invest any more time in it. But it's probably it brought in enough money to make another game. Then I have a good idea. If it's not successful at all, and if it's super bad if it's just a waste of time, basically, I will probably finish my university degree at some point. Don't know.
No?
Anything between those three options, I'd say.
All good options. Yeah, we really hope for a big success because I'm curious about the next game. You already mentioned like that you had a very steep learning curve. I'm just curious, do you have any tips for young developers who are at the beginning of the game dev career?
um, Basically, what everyone says, just start. And basically, the other thing which everyone says, your first game is probably way over the top. When I mentioned before that I made games with my group of friends, we had this idea of a game, which is still a great idea, I think. But it was the idea was basically you have a game, and this is an open world game, and you can basically do whatever you want. You can drive every vehicle you want. You can enter every house you want. Our idea was to make a GTA map, but you can enter every building. This was our idea. We were two people. And we used Game Maker. And
Wow.
this isn't everything. We had a story, and the plot of the game was that you can switch between now and the year 1920. So we had to make everything on the entire map twice. And this is probably a good example for something which is too big for starting your game development career. But on the other hand, I think, and this is something I never did, is I never remade some platformer or something like this. It's probably a good way to learn, but it's not something I wanted to do because I found it was boring. But make something within a reasonable scope which you will ever finish.
Very, very good advice. Yeah, absolutely. And interesting game idea still. Maybe you should finish it at some point. Last question. And this might be a hard one. I mean, this was a special year and a challenging year, I think, for every one of us. So the last question would be, how was this year for you? How did you cope with specific challenges? And yeah, what is your plan for next year and what's going to change?
I think this is a very good question, especially for my game, because it's weird, obviously, because you can't go anywhere, and it's personally it's not very great. But for the project, it's probably a better situation than without any COVID problems or anything like that, because I mean it's a game about festivals, and there are no festivals last year, and were no festivals last year, and probably there won't be any festivals next year. I don't know yet, but let's see. So their standard, for example, wrote about me and the game in April, I think, and this gave me a huge push in popularity outside of the game development industry in Austria. And this is something which would probably have never happened if COVID wasn't a thing. And it's the entire situation around this live event and live music and everything is kind of interesting right now, I think. But yeah, for me personally, it's like for everyone else, being locked in isn't the best thing you can do, and I'm used to being at home office, but it's good for the project, but it's bad for me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Johannes. It was so lovely meeting you, and thanks for all those insights. And yeah, good luck with your game, and we're really looking forward to play it, and hopefully also the next one. So
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks. Yes. All right. So this is Festival Tycoon. First thing is you start with creating your company. You give it a name. You select a icon, a logo, and then you choose your map where you want to start. Currently, we don't have the money to select anything else than this one, and this is your map. And now I'm doing this in a little bit a faster version. You place down stage, and as you can immediately see, you don't have any money. And this is probably how festivals are. You first look for a sponsor. And those sponsors have different things which are good, bad, or they have requirements and requests, and they need those sponsor points and so on and so forth, and they give you something in return. For example, this one, Optimal Drinks, looks pretty promising. They give you a small stage, they give you a band for free, they give you no money. There is no money involved with this deal, but I'll just grab them. Yeah. And then we need someone with money. Yeah, let's just take this one. And now you have this overview, and here you see if it's red, it's not fulfilled, and you need to fulfill those points. And sponsors give you those little special extras, which are basically mini quests. All right, so now we have the money. We can build, and I'll just build in a very quick manner here. We need a stage. We need an entrance. This is the spawn point where your visitors arrive. Yeah, entrance. We need something where they can sleep. Let me just activate the grid. Here they sleep. Then we need some toilets, which we will just place along here. We don't need any showers, because who cares about showers at a festival? An ATM is important, so if they run out of money and you don't have an ATM, no one is giving you their money. So this is probably the most important thing. Yeah, basically some amenities for them. Food and drinks, this is important too. There are different types, like those beer and can booths, and food, burgers, and donuts. Exactly. Yeah, and then something to do during the day. I mean, this is very sloppy and very fast, but now we can book bands. And one of those sponsors already gave us a band, and this is a rock band. And this is important because we want to book rock bands or metal bands, but not EDM bands now, because they don't really like each other and they won't fit on our stages together, and then the genre rating is bad and so on and so forth. So let's see if we get a metal band. And now bands have those requirements and needs as well. And they need a relax area, and they need a festival rating. We just accept it, and yeah. And now we have two bands. We can scroll down there and just assign them. We can sell tickets. Here we can set the price. No, $60 for this festival is probably a bit too much. And we can sell an early bird contingent, and there we can see how much the price varieties, if it's good or bad. It's basically market analysis. And we see we don't even sell nearly as much as we'd like to, so this is probably way too high, and we want to have it like $40, for example. Exactly. I start the festival now. Festival starts, and now our visitors arrive. Don't take this as a tutorial because it's super bad what I just did, but they are here now, and yeah, they're at the entrance, and then they set up their tents. You can follow them along, and they have needs which you need to fulfill, and then they have a satisfaction value. And here's a overview over their feelings, basically. It's a social feed. It's a copy of another famous social media platform, I'd say. And then there's their happiness down here. And yeah, your goal is to make them as happy as possible. And currently there's only one major task here, and this is cleaning. As you can see in the red areas, it's super dirty everywhere, and you can clean this with this clean brush. This band will play at 6 tomorrow. I'll just fast forward. Exactly. And everyone is super happy because they played a great show. And if they play a great show, the visitors are happy.